Welcome to this week's episode of the Me and Ree podcast. I'm your host, Reanna Hoffman, and I am here with my friend Rachel. Rachel, can you explain who you are, what you do, introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. Hi, I'm Rachel. I am a mother of two. I have two sons. One is 4 years old, and one is 9 months old in the body of a toddler. He's enormous.
Mm-hmm.
I live in Virginia with my husband Jake and our two sons and our dog Margie. She's a pit bull lab mix, and in my eyes, I think she's perfect. I am definitely a homebody. For the longest time, I would call myself an extrovert, but now that I'm in the thick of motherhood, and when I get a moment to myself, I sort of just want to be in my pajamas and my slippers under my covers. So I think I'm becoming a bit of an introvert. Um, I really enjoy crafts and true crime. So
Yep.
that's a
I
little
love
bit
that.
about me.
I love that about you. Your kiddos are hilarious. I was in the a conversation with your oldest today, and he just made me
Oh,
giggle. And then your little, I watched him pull up on the chair at church this morning in the middle of response time, and I was like, he got
my
big.
My 4 year old is like a 4 year old going on 90. The other
Mm-hmm.
day, I pulled his laundry basket out of his room and I was clearly taking it down to do laundry. And he goes, "Oh, good, I'm running out of pants." It's like, okay.
I love your kid so much.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, can you tell us a little bit about your church background, what that looks like?
Sure. I really like my story and my background because um I don't know of anybody else who has a background similar to mine, and I appreciate that. I feel like the Lord, um, I know there are others who do, but I don't personally, and I feel like the Lord has used that to just relate to people and to kind of kick off conversations. So I grew up atheist, is what I would probably call it, and I attempted to go to church a couple times when I was little. Like if my really cool friends were having like youth group events or Young Life, or I'm trying to remember some of the names of the programs, but when they would have like really cool fun events, I'd want to go. But I don't think I ever attended a church service. They would give me panic attacks. I have anxiety disorder, and the act of like walking into a church would send me into a panic attack, which was interesting. And so I never really went to church. I attended like funeral services and went to synagogue a couple times for like bat mitzvahs and stuff. But it wasn't until the Lord saved me in college at the University of Mary Washington, right around the corner, that I started to attend church. So it was actually during a panic attack that the Lord just made himself known to me so abundantly and clearly. Um, and just gave me this overwhelming sense of peace that I had never experienced before. And I couldn't ignore it. And so that was my freshman year of college. And so I started asking some questions. I was still kind of like, I wanted to live for myself and for the world. So I was really interested, but definitely still putting things, aside and on the back burner. But by sophomore year, I had several Christian friends who would attend church, and none of them ever pressured me to go. Um, but there was one Sunday, they would always just come back so happy, and usually with like leftovers or some sort of like food or snack. And so there was one Sunday that I was like, "Can I go with you?" And I think inside they were like, it's happening. But because come to find out, them and their families had been praying for me for some time. But I went and I loved it. This was a church that had one of those greet your neighbor
Mm-hmm.
opportunities in the midst of worship. And I just remember never experiencing like kindness, like
Mm-hmm.
like people were excited to meet me and shake my hand and welcome me. And I was like, "Ah." I'm a words of affirmation girly. So, that was speaking my love language. And we sang In Christ Alone and Mighty to Save. And the lyrics just like gave me chills and Yeah, it was. I mean, I never looked back after that. I think I've pretty much been going, unless I've been sick or something, every Sunday since. Um, and I was part of a church with my now husband when we were dating, and then when we were engaged and newlyweds. And that was the church that we attended the longest. I think it was about 11 years that we attended that church together. I've only ever been to a couple in my life, if I'm being honest. Um, and I'm really grateful for the journey the Lord has taken me on. I'm grateful that we have found such an incredible church home here now that we're, raising our boys in. So that's a bit of my journey.
That's so cool. I
Yeah.
think I only knew parts of that. Like I know different parts than you shared. So it's fun to hear different sections of how the Lord moves and works. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So you met Jesus as a young adult
I did. Yeah, I
in
was
college.
in college. I mean, my first true encounter with him where it was unmistakable was when I was 18. And like I said, I was having a severe anxiety attack where ordinarily medicine was the only thing that would help it subside.
Yeah.
That or like my mom. And I didn't have either with me at the time. And, and I was kind of pacing on the porch of this one dorm. And my friend was with me, and I'm trying to calm down. And it was fall, I think. And so I was like breathing the crisp air and trying to calm down. And she was just like trying to help me. And she was a believer. And she just told me, she was like, Jesus loves you. He's here. He's with you. God loves you. And it was like I took my medication, like my body just head to toe, just warmth and peace and calm. I mean, there was no matter how hard I tried, there was no denying the Lord's presence in that moment. So, yeah, so I was 18 when I first felt his presence. And then I gave my life to him when I was a junior. It took me some time to officially commit, but I'm so glad I did. So think I was 19 when I gave my life to him, 19 or 20. And then I was 21 when I got baptized. I think I did the math right. Something like that.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So, as a young adult, how easy or hard was it to fit in a church? Because you get this unique situation, whereas I was born in the church, like
Right.
in womb on the back row. People were staring at my mother's belly because I'm a triplet, and our hands and feet would like poke out. So, like, literally have been in the church since the womb.
Right.
You, on the other hand, had this really cool, unique experience to find the Lord as a young adult. So, how easy or hard was it to fit in?
That's a fantastic question that I've honestly never really thought of because to me, I had never been to church before. So there was no comparing, oh, what is church like as a young adult versus as a toddler or a young kid? To me, it was all new.
Mm-hmm.
And so um, I didn't know what I was doing. I just let everybody else around me sort of guide me. I didn't know like the do's and don'ts. Not that there are many, but I didn't know the protocols. I didn't know, okay, do we all take communion together? Or what is this meet your neighbor time? Or, do I go to people's homes after for lunch if they ask me, or are they just asking to be polite? Um, but I was just so excited. And like I said, I had never experienced the genuine, other than like the love of my family, I would say. I had never experienced the genuine just love of like strangers,
Mm-hmm.
just true community. I thought I had been part of other groups and clubs and stuff in high school and played sports and stuff, but there was nothing like this. And so I don't remember feeling like it was hard for me to fit in because I was just rolling with it. I was so excited. I was like, these people are inviting me to their home for lunch. And like I said, you know, with having severe anxiety, my home was one of my safe places for the
Mm-hmm.
longest time. And so when I was on a college campus, I was 3.5 hours, 4 hours from home. And so being invited into people's homes was so comforting. Just a home cooked meal was so comforting. And so um, I just sort of took the bull by the horns and was like, whenever people would invite me or reach out to me, I'd be like, yes, oh my goodness, you're so kind. Um, so I don't know. I had nothing to compare it to. I didn't find it difficult, but like I said, I was so
Yeah.
overwhelmed by my first experiences with church. So,
I love that. I love that people got to show you Jesus in their attitudes, their actions, and their
mhm.
words, and how they were kind. And it makes me so happy. I'm not gonna jump up and down on my couch, but as a young adult, you kind of went in, took the bull by the horns in your
Mhm.
extrovertedness.
At the time, I
At
was an
the
extrovert. Yes.
time, as an extrovert, now you're a touched out mom who would like
Mm.
30 seconds apiece. Um, so what would you consider a young adult? Like, what is the age range?
That is a great question that I probably should have thought of before logging in, but um, I'm sure there's like official definitions out there. In my personal view, I would say I'm very much a believer that you're not an adult till you turn 18,
Hmm.
just for so many reasons. And so I would say, enjoy your adolescence and your teenage years. I would say young adulthood for me probably begins around 18, when people are typically starting off at college or going to trade schools or, whatever it might be. As for when the age range, like the upper end of it, as a 34, almost 35-year-old, it feels weird to put a cap on it that I'm not included in. But I don't know. I think it kind of depends on your perspective. Like, so for example, my husband and I, we own a home. We have two kids. We are very much like our dishwasher just recently flooded, and the kitchen behind me is down to the subfloor, and we're having to redo our whole kitchen. That feels a bit like adulthood to me. And, parenting two young kids feels like adulthood. Um, but then we have college kids over, or we have people over who are newly married. My husband and I, we just celebrated 11 years of marriage. And that's not by any means like, however many years you've been married indicates whether you're a young adult. But when we have younger folks over, oh my word, I just said younger folks.
You did.
It's very clear to us. I don't think we are within the young adult category, or at least I wouldn't consider it. So to me, I would probably say 18 to 20 something. I don't know.
Okay. So
I don't,
30 is a bona fide grown up?
maybe. I
Okay,
think it
it's just
depends.
your perspective.
I think it also depends on like where you are in
Hmm.
your life experience. Um, there are people that I know that who are 22, and I'm like, I want them to adopt me. And like I think it just depends on people's life experience, where they're at, their maturity. I mean, it depends on so many factors. So I
Yeah.
don't know if I necessarily have like a where it ends cap.
Yeah, and I kind of appreciate that because then that takes the scariness of, okay, I'm a grown up. What do I do now? Out of the equation. I know when I moved to Virginia, like 995 miles from my mom, I was
Mhm.
like, okay, I'm an adult. And I definitely remember the conversations had at your house and other people's houses. I was like, okay, grown up, help. And then when I got married, I was like, oh, this is going to be so, you're just two, I don't knows together.
Mhm.
And so then you have two sets of parents to call when something goes wrong
Mhm.
instead of just the one. And when you're a young adult, I remember meeting you and be like, oh, we're best friends. And I think I stayed at your house for like 8.5 hours. My mom would have died had she known I stayed at your house that long because hospitality is a thing. And
Mhm.
so we have the unique relationship that I think you're a young adult in my brain.
Thank you. What I was just thinking was you were saying that, like, if you were interviewing my mom, she'd be like, "Oh yeah, Rachel's a young adult." And I
Yeah.
think to some people, I would be considered young adult. I think with having two very young children, and like my husband and I will often just look at each other and be like, they need us to survive. Um, it and just going stuff going on with our home right now, it feels like we're in the thick of adulthood. But then there are other times that we're like, we look around and we think we are, you know, younger adults. So maybe we are. I
You
don't
are.
know.
I think you are. You
Thank
can
you.
be at my house. You can be a young adult at my house.
Perfect.
I have a follow-up question. So we've decided that young adults do fit in the church. We've
Yes.
decided that the church gets to love them really well. How do
Mhm.
young adults plug into the church if they in your case, have never been to a church.
Yes. So again, when my husband and I started dating, we were at a church that was new to both of us. It was the second one I'd ever been to. My husband grew up in church, and then we committed. We became members, and like I said, we were engaged there. We were married there. We were going through infertility there, going through adoption there, and then in 2020, I believe the church, our pastor retired, and that was that. But we were, I think, the only, give or take a couple of people who would come and go. We were mostly the only like 20 something year olds there. And definitely the only like engaged and newlywed couple. And for the most part, everybody was older than us, other than like really little kids. And so at times we felt a bit like, do we sit at the kids' table or do we sit with
Yeah.
like the adults who have like five kids and are, maybe like more similar to our parents' ages.
Yeah.
Um, and it at times it felt a little funky when we started having like we called them dinner groups, and basically it was like 5 or 6 families would be part of one dinner group, and you would alternate. I think it was on Sunday evenings or something, and you would alternate whose homes you went to for dinner. And we would host and feel so silly because like none of our furniture matched, and we lived in a much smaller home than everybody else, and we're just learning how to cook and all this stuff. And it felt like when we went to everybody else's homes, they had been living there for 20 years, and were using their favorite family recipes and all this stuff. But we would hear from the people in our church like that we were an encouragement. And I didn't really believe them. I was like, yeah, okay, you have to say that. But now that, I'm a little bit closer to sort of that age group, and we do have young adults in our home, it is so true. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how fun it is when I tell my children, like, oh, so and so is coming over for dinner, or they're coming over, they're just going to stop by and bring mommy a cup of coffee, or, we're going to so and so's house for an event. And they get so excited. And it doesn't matter what age in life the person is, it's somebody in my kids' lives, in our lives, in our church who means a lot, who knows Jesus, and can speak life and truth to me and my children. And so, yeah, I think there's absolutely a place for young adults, and I don't think that, you know, it discriminates based on the fact that they're a young adult.
Yeah.
I think that, plugging into serve teams, I think that plugging into community groups, things specific to the church that we attend, are just ways that you can be loved on as a young adult,
Mhm.
especially in college. Like I said, when a home cooked meal just hits the spot, or leaving that college bubble and having a place to study that's not like a coffee shop or your dorm room makes such a difference.
Having a real couch to sit on.
Yeah, and just being in a home environment that's not in the college bubble,
Mhm.
and I think allowing people to host you, realizing that you are not a burden, that it is a gift to be able to host and to be able to serve, that person. And in turn, I can't tell you the amount of times that I've called up some of my young adult friends who I just say, hey, I'm trying to go to Costco today. My kids are incredibly unruly. Could you just be a second pair of
Mhm.
eyes or like a second pair of hands to help me shop? And what a gift that is when they say yes. To just have that company, and it doesn't matter our age difference or, our different experiences. It's somebody else there who I know I can trust, who loves my kids, who I just enjoy spending time with. Um, so I think, yeah, joining serve teams, joining community groups, just getting involved, the more people you can meet, um, and the more people that can reach out and love you and serve you, but then in turn, you
Yeah.
can absolutely serve them back.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that So much. I have a vivid memory of when I first moved to Virginia and I walked in your house and I sat on your floor to play with your 4-year-old and you laid in my lap. And it like
Which at
made
the
me
time,
feel,
I guess he was like 2.
he might have been 2. I remember your kid when he was like little, and it makes me feel very
Um,
old that he's 4.
Wait, no, that's true. I think you met him closer when he was like 1.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I
crazy.
know. It's wild. But I remember like getting to like come into your house and I lived with a roommate and I didn't feel at home at my home. And I was like, oh, house. House is
But
not my
then,
house.
but then flip the page a little bit,
Yeah.
and we had that massive snowstorm.
Yeah.
And my husband and my son and I were out of power for 56 hours.
Yep. It was something wild.
What was that in 2021? 22.
22.
Yeah.
Because y'all
And
had COVID.
yeah. And despite that, I mean, we were like over the hump of
Yeah.
COVID, but
But y'all like didn't have power. It was wild.
but we were cold and hungry and running out of ways to entertain our then 1.5-year old. And you and your roommate opened up your apartment and had us over, and you cooked for us, and you sent us home with leftovers. And so, what a fun way to kind of flip the script. Like you
Yeah.
were, it was so lovely to be able to know that we could come to a warm home, and you guys were so inviting, and
Yeah.
just a perfect example of how it's completely, what is the word, symbiotic?
Yeah. I
Is that
think
the
that's
right
the
word?
correct term. Yeah.
Is
Both
that like
ways.
your sort of parasites, though? I don't know.
I
It,
mean, you can be a parasite in my
reciprocal?
life. I'm okay. What?
Reciprocal?
A reciprocal might be the better word than symbiotic.
It goes both ways.
It was reciprocated.
There we go. That's why you're the
Uh-huh.
host. Wait, that references parasites too. Oh, anyway.
I love you so much. You bring me so much joy. Anyway, is there anything else you wanted to share with our peoples about young adults or the church or life?
Hmm.
Get
I
your
think,
chicken at Giant.
what's that?
I said, get your chicken at Giant. That's always one of your tips. It makes me giggle.
I just did that, Rihanna. Uh, what was it? Wednesday?
Mm-hmm.
I went at like, wait, no, Thursday. I went on Thursday at like 6 p.m. because I checked. I was like, "Oh, I wonder if there are any good sales." And I checked and I saw on their flyer that Thursday was the last day of a sale on chicken that they were having. $1.77 a pound.
This is how you love young adults well. You tell us when the chicken is on sale.
Well, I didn't. I kept that one to myself, but I'll let you know next time. Yeah.
One of my favorite cards we got when we got married is Rachel and her husband like to co-write cards, and it is
Oh,
the best thing ever. And
we've
one of
done
the things,
that forever.
it's the best. And one of the things was wedding marriage tip. You can get chicken for 167 a pound at Giant. Just make
Look at,
sure you look at the flyer. It was in my wedding card.
was it 167 at that time?
I'll have to look.
Oh,
I'll look
inflation.
and text you. Yeah, I derailed us. Is there anything else you wanted to share?
I would just encourage, I mean, this goes for young adults, but also anybody listening, I guess, that you're never a burden. Like
Mm,
I just remember um when I'm specifically referencing when I was in college and I was a new believer, and um people would, like I was saying, I was so excited that people were asking me to come over after church, and I didn't have a car, so I was at the mercy of like if they would drive me home
yeah,
after. Um and then they would, of course, like I would eat their meal, and then they would take out Tupperware and they'd fill it and then send me back to my dorm with it. And the first couple times were like, whoa, this is crazy. But you do start to feel like, am I taking advantage? And how am I serving these people back? And um, I don't know. I remember like when my husband and I were engaged, like we were loved so, so well, just with a wedding shower, an engagement
hmm
shower, just, and those were things that at the time we weren't necessarily able to reciprocate or give
yeah,
back. And but man, as somebody who has been on the opposite end of the spectrum now, I just want to say, like, there are people who have come into my home numerous times who have never hosted me back, and I love them, and they serve me in ways that they don't they don't even know.
Mhm.
And maybe I should do a better job of telling them. But um, just know that if you're following the Lord, and if you are just truly being yourself and genuine with people, and whether you're in their home or yours, as long as you're just genuinely loving them in the way that the Lord calls you to, just be encouraged that you're not a burden. They love having you, no matter how many Tupperware containers you take home at the end of your visit. It is such a gift to be able to have you in their lives. And so, as somebody who has felt that a little bit before, I just wanted to remind people that you're loved, you're not a burden, you are special, and you belong. There's always a place for you in the church, and Jesus loves you.
I love this. This is why we're friends. This is why we're friends. This is why you got invited to the podcast. And we
Woo.
need to hang, but we'll schedule that off the podcast. So, friends, thank you, Rachel. Thank you. It's a joy and a privilege, as always. If you want to comment below a question for Rachel or for me, on Spotify, you can do that. On YouTube, you can do that. On Apple Podcasts, I have not figured that out yet. So again, if you are an Apple Podcast listener, please DM me on my Instagram. My Instagram is Reanna, Reanna .ivy .hoff, HOFF, and help a sister out. I have not figured it out. My tech support, aka Philip, hasn't figured it out yet either. I probably haven't asked him. He will probably hear that request in this podcast. So we're going to continue chatting it up with young adults. I'm going to leave Rachel's Instagram in the show notes. I might leave her Etsy shop because the girl is so creative and I love all of her stuff. And I have stuff at my house that has her signature style
I've
all
made
over
some
my house.
too.
I still have my Christmas tree up because I'm that person. And I'm staring at 2 ornaments right now that has
Yay.
your stuff on it. So I'll leave Rachel's Etsy shop and her Instagram. Her Instagram is also funny when she gets on it. She went viral for something like one of the button things on her
Oh my
redecoration.
word.
It's a whole thing.
Girl.
Anyway, you should follow Rachel on Instagram and Etsy. Otherwise, I'm going to come up with a poll that I want you to vote on later.
Ooh.
Comment, do all the things, follow us on YouTube, and you need to like and subscribe and share. Share this with someone else. I know Rachel has been such an encouragement to me. So share this with somebody that you want to encourage this week. Anyway, we love you. We can't wait to see you and talk to you later. Bye, friends.